for Kids equipped at-risk students with the skills they need to succeed in school and in life. I talk one-on-one with the CEO of Wings for Kids, Bridget Laird, for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Bridget Laird, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. You are the CEO of Wings for Kids, whose mission is to equip all at-risk students with obviously the skills they need to succeed in school and obviously thrive in life. You have been with Wings since 1998, working alongside my good friend Jenny Darren. What's new? What's now with Wings for Kids?
What's new with it? I'm sorry.
Ma'am. Yes. What's new? What's now with Jenny with Wings for Kids?
What's new? What's now? Let's see. We are actually this year we started a new program over at the City Gym, the Arthur W. Christopher Center.
Yes.
And it's been a great opportunity because we're able to serve kids from 6 different elementary schools. So that's new for us. We typically run in schools. This is the first year that we've run in a community center. It's been an awesome partnership with the City of Charleston Recreation. So we're really happy about that.
And let me talk to you about that program. How many kids are in that program so far?
It's one of our smaller programs. So there's about 50 kids. We typically get to about 100 to 140 eventually.
Yes.
But because it's our first year, we start a little smaller and we hope to increase the enrollment next year.
And so what do you hope to be in enrollment next year?
We're hoping to get closer to 80 to 100 by the end of the school year.
Oh, good. Okay. I was going to ask you about your timeline. Yes, ma'am. And as I mentioned earlier, Wings for Kids' mission is to equip at-risk kids with the skills they need to succeed in school, stay in school, and thrive in life. So how many at-risk kids are there right now in the Tri-County area?
Well, we are in Berkeley County as well. So we're at St. Stephen's Elementary. We're also in St. Matthew up in Calhoun County. And then we have 2 programs up near Columbia. So we are kind of all over the place. And within the Tri-County, we're at Berkeley and the community center.
And you mentioned all of those areas. So with all the growth that's going on right now, Bridget, how do you keep up with that growth, with smart growth?
Well, I think that one of the things is that we're really intentional about the teaching that we do with kids. So we want to make sure that we grow in a direction that we're partnering with schools and districts that are prepared and ready to embrace the same type of teaching. So that's really one of the key pieces of our growth, is being intentional about having an impact.
Yes.
So that we aren't just growing to grow, but growing to have true outcome and impact with the kids.
So how many of those school districts right now are actually prepared for what you all are preparing for as far as growth?
I don't think that the school districts are as ready for a scaled type program.
Oh.
I think that we're in line with where can we go deeper and grow. And I do think that as Berkeley County and Charleston County continue to grow, they have embraced what we teach a little bit more. Like you said, I've been here 25 years, and I think now people are understanding that other half of education.
Right.
So, early on it was all about the head smarts, and it's math, science, and it's you got your head in your book, and now they're starting to recognize the heart smart, so that other half. So I do think that the schools are really focusing on that heart smart piece, which is great.
Absolutely. And so, okay, what is the biggest difference about Wings for Kids from 25 years ago to right now, Ms. Bridget?
I think the biggest difference is we've went through a lot of evaluation and proven our work. So we've done the steps to do a full randomized control trial to show, okay, our program is effective. And it took us a while to do that because we had to get the program codified in a way that was implemented with fidelity, so we felt good about the work that we did. 25 years ago, we were probably a little more in trial and error. Let's give this a go. We're at the school. We're kind of trying what we can. And now we have a real recipe for this is how it works. This is what you need to do. And if you do these, then we can predict the outcomes with the kids.
And what have been those outcomes for the kids thus far?
So our kids, based on the randomized control trial, are behaving better in school. They're doing better academically in school, and they're attending school more often.
Wow. So how many of those kids are actually attending school more often these days?
So our kids have an attendance rate of above 90%. Wow. So they are attending at high rates.
High rates. And where do you see that rate going in the next 2 to 3 years?
I hope that they continue that high rate stays and kids continue to stay in school and look forward to being at school. With Wings, we create an attachment to school because they really want to be there. It's a place they feel safe. It's a place they feel loved.
Right.
So they feel like this is somewhere I want to go every day.
Every day. And in those schools, let's talk about the public schools. Is the higher percentage of at-risk students in ninth grade from what you all see?
Well, we work with K through 5, so we're more in the elementary age school. And we are seeing, third grade is the most important year for literacy. So you really want to make sure the kids are reading by third grade. And that's a piece that coupled with what we teach, we can give kids that perseverance, that confidence, that drive to learn and also feel good in the classroom so that they can retain more information than they would if they were, not working on that heart smart side of things.
And so from the K to 5 standpoint, Miss Bridget, where do you see actually the drop below 20% as far as at-risk students?
In terms of the drop in, like, which grade? Is that the question? I think that the schools that we're working in, that are Title I schools with 90% higher free and reduced lunch, so you don't necessarily see a drop in the grades. I think it's diversified across the grades that the kids in the schools where we are working are in need, kind of across the grades.
So how do you then develop those social and emotional skills that will actually enable those students to manage those challenges that they have in schools?
Yeah, I think so. We really sneak it into a codified curriculum, and we're like, let's throw some sneaky lessons in there. So we have them 3 hours a day, 5 days a week,
wow.
And they're having a lot of fun. But what we're doing is building lessons around the fun, right, to do things like how to make good decisions, right, how to stay focused, sure, how to build healthy relationships, how to manage your emotions, things that might get in the way. And you can imagine there's a lot of opportunities when you're doing fun things like playing basketball or chess or hockey. All those things can be woven into those activities.
And I know this is a redundant question, but what is the student's approach to understanding, expressing, and regulating one's own emotions?
Yeah, so we have a lot of little lingo that we use. So for something like that, for focusing, we use something called your eyes, ears, and energy. Mm-hmm. So your eyes are focused on the task at hand. So take it as simple as homework. Your eyes are not on your neighbor's paper trying to see, like, what answer did you get, right? Your eyes are on your paper. Your ears are ignoring that kid. It's like, what'd you get for number 6? What'd you get for number 6? You're really, focusing. And then your energy, you're not tossing the pencil up and down or, spitting spitballs across the room. Your energy is on, like, how can I stay focused on this math problem? So you can use that everywhere, the eyes, ears, and energy, like staying focused. So we have a lot of things like that are just little lingo that we use to bring in important lessons. Another one we really like is to share your ID. Right. And that means to share what I did. Mm. So to take accountability for things. So like as an adult, right, you would do that if you were late for a meeting and you came like storming in. And the first thing most people say is, sorry, I'm late, there was traffic. Right. But we'd say, share your ID. What did you do? Mm. I didn't leave the house 15 minutes early like I should have. So I got caught in traffic and now I'm late. So in the kids, that's a really easy thing to teach because they're quick to blame others, So yes. The teacher's fault, it's the other kid's fault. And they're never really saying, like, what is it that I did for this to happen? So that's another good one.
Yes, indeed. I know all about that going back to my days in elementary and middle and high schools.
Yeah, we all do.
Right, exactly right. And what other lessons right now are actually resonating with those kids?
I think that post-pandemic, it's really resonating the importance of relationships and building healthy, trusting relationships.
Yes.
because we had a time where we weren't really interacting with a lot, and kids didn't have the ability to engage in meaningful relationships. And now they're understanding, like, what does it mean to trust somebody? What does it mean to do things that have me show that I'm trustworthy? How can I support a friend? You know, if I see a friend over in the playground who's sad and upset, how can I put myself into their shoes to say, how can I help you have a better day? And I think that post-pandemic, that's really shining, and kids are understanding, like, relationships are really important.
Oh, absolutely. So, how supported do students actually feel in class today?
You know, I think it's across the board. I mean, I think that you have a lot of teachers that are really trying really hard in the classroom, and it's just a tough time. So I think that they're bringing a lot of baggage into the classroom that might not be even associated with the school.
Right.
So I think that they have some post-traumatic stuff going on from COVID, and I hope that we contribute to the support to say, okay, well, you have all this going on. Teachers really are out there trying. It's a tough job. What can we do to provide extra support? So I think that they're struggling a bit in how do we feel in the classroom. So hopefully we can help with that.
And how many of those students actually, right now, from you and your team's perspective, actually have that type of stress right now?
I would say 95% of our kids are experiencing that stress in some way or the other.
Wow.
It's real.
Real, very much so. Yes, ma'am. And how many of those wing students with pro-social skills have actually healthier relationships with others, including their classmates and those teachers you just mentioned?
Well, when we do our assessments of our programs, we measure that type of thing so that our goal is for 80% or higher for our kids, and we've achieved those goals this year, so we have higher rates than that to show that kids are using the appropriate relationship skill building with their peers. So I think that hopefully will help with the entire classroom. So if you have some wings kids in there that are building healthy relationships, it makes the classroom a better place.
And how many of those students actually have higher grades and test scores because of those relationships?
We showed that about, given per year, our goal for that is 70% or higher for kids to show academic increases, and we're on track to reach those goals as well.
And where exactly are those academic increases right now?
They'd be on the report cards. So as opposed to a test score, we're looking at report cards to make sure that they're maintaining positive grades in the classroom.
And how many of those students have actually maintained that over the past 2 years?
Well, that's hard to measure the past 2 years just because we've had so much moving. But again, our hope is that 70% of kids will stay on that track. And then again, we fall back on our randomized control trial evaluation that shows that all the kids in wings are doing better in school than a non-wings kid. So if the growth for a non-wings kid is going from an 80 to an 87, you would assume that a wings kid might go from 80 to a 93. So that there's one of our studies showed it was 11 percentile points that the kids did better than the non-wings kids. So it's all about where you start, but we hope that our kids can increase at that rate.
And this might be a silly question, Ms. Bridget, but in the classroom setting, how many wing kids are actually associated or collaborating with non-wing kids?
Well, you take a typical classroom, and there's usually about half, maybe a little less, that are wings kids, and then the other half that aren't. So then you have the opportunity as a teacher, you hope that kids that are going to wings, because it's an after-school program, so we can only take so many.
Right.
We hope that kids that are going to wings are bringing back the lessons that they learned to their peers, and then the teachers can also incorporate some of the things that we teach at wings.
And because of wings social emotional learning in the interventions, how have those interventions resulted in an improved social climate of the classroom, as many may most strongly predict student grade points averages than the teachers' instructional practices?
Yeah, so we have our teachers use something, it's an assessment that is called the DESA, which is a behavioral assessment.
Okay.
And it tracks our kids' behavior within the school day. And then we have, again, an 80% target for kids to improve those behaviors. So our teachers are actually using those assessments in the classroom to rate the kids.
And
Hoping 80% have the improved behavior.
And what other behaviors that you hope these kids will improve on in the classroom?
So focusing, that's one thing, staying focused and being able to absorb what they're taught as opposed to kind of wandering all over the place.
Yeah.
Doing things like meeting a deadline and turning things in on time, that's very important. And especially, in the older grades where you want kids to take personal accountability. So that personal accountability piece, having pride in your work, making sure that it's done on time.
Yes.
And then, the grit and perseverance, because some kids are really struggling academically, and especially post-pandemic. So that grit and perseverance to say, I want to do this. I know it's hard, but I can do this and I can get through it. So those are some of the skills that they learn.
And what other skills, because of COVID, are you guys working on with the students and the teachers right now?
I think, that piece of self-esteem has dipped a lot. Kids are feeling a little down and maybe not as confident as they were before COVID. So I think that that's something that we're really working on, ensuring that the kids feel good about themselves, know how to manage their emotions again when they don't, and what is it that can help them. And then again, it's that support piece. When you see somebody who isn't feeling as confident and not feeling so good about themselves, how can you support that friend and help them? So it's that, I think a confidence piece is really dipped and we're trying to bring back.
What else are those students really lacking confidence in?
I think, obviously grades.
Yes.
I think homework
is
definitely something that's, our kids are never really feeling great about the homework that they bring.
Yes.
And then I do think that extracurricular piece is a little bit down too. So not having, you skipped maybe a year and a half of doing something like learning an instrument or playing a sport where you didn't really have that opportunity to get good at it. So I think there's a dip there too in just extracurricular activities.
Wow. And how have your staff identified students with social, emotional, or behavior problems and actually provide support to reduce their symptoms and actually build their strengths personally and academically?
Yeah, and I think that all goes back to the assessments that we do. So when we bring kids into the program, we're quick to say, okay, what are some things that they're struggling with? They quickly lose control, or they're very introverted and shy and timid, or they're quick to make a decision in the moment and regret it later. So we do that assessment as soon as they get into the program, and then we have learning objectives that we teach to say, okay, well, how can we ensure that the child gets the learning objective? So then mid-year, when we do the assessment again, we can pull in the scores to see how well they're doing and then do them again at the end of the year. And they do them again with the teachers and in the programs to make sure that it's consistent.
And what have those scores been like recently?
I think that we've been able to maintain and stay on track and have an increase from beginning of the year to end of the year.
Wow. And let me ask you this too, Ms. Bridget. And what has your program and skills have been become? I mean, how has your program that is become transformative for both the students and teachers?
Well, again, I think that the kids, they become a better version of themselves. They become confident. They understand how to make decisions that are impacting their lives in a positive way. They feel good about themselves. And when they make others feel good, that helps them too. So they have that social awareness to do good and to help others. And when you have a teacher and you have kids in a classroom that are becoming a better version of themselves, it makes teaching a little bit easier because you have kids that are saying, I want to learn.
Yes.
I know that might not be easy.
Right.
Here are the emotions that are going to come along with it, but I'm here and I'm ready. And that makes the teacher's job a little bit easier, hopefully.
Yeah, indeed, exactly right. So, as far as trends, Ms. Bridget, what are those trends that you are looking at as far as social awareness?
I think that, it depends on the different grade that kids are in. You're talking about a kindergarten. kid who's just starting school and really hasn't had to think about many other people besides themselves, and then they actually have like more playtime than anyone, and maybe for the first time have to share toys and that kind of thing. And then you move in as you get transition, and you keep going up until 5th grade, and that's when the awareness is a little bit more into things like cliques and bullying and situations where you're recognizing when others are treating somebody differently. You're recognizing when someone is intentionally hurting someone, and you're saying, okay, what can I do to help this situation? Because I know that it's not the best situation for that person. And I think that, again, so it's a continuum as they grow, but the ultimate is that you really want a child that's treating others, how they want to be treated or better.
Absolutely. And I know that growing up is tough according to your organization's website, and a lot of the kids grow up without resources and support they need to become even tougher. How many of those at-risk students grow up without resources and support?
Well, I would say, it's for us, we are only in a few schools, so we're only able to, in the, Tri-County area, impact, 100 to 150 kids. There are a lot of other places out there that are, out there and striving to help, but there is a large group of kids that are left behind in that gap.
Wow. Whatever.
And we do what we can to really ensure that kids have the services they need to not get left behind.
Right. And not to be left behind. So what are those other gaps that your organization wants to close?
We really try and help with the families as well. So that a lot of times the parents will come to us and say things like, I heard you using this phrase, eyes, ears, and energy. I heard you using this phrase, share your ID. And my kids came home and they're using it. Can you please talk to me about what that means? Because I want to bring it home. Because every time they're doing this, they're experiencing success and feeling good about themselves. So we want to be on board with us. And so I think that working with the parents to ensure that they too feel supported is really important.
And speaking of which, I know that more than 12 million U.S. kids live in poverty, and the academic achievement gap between lower and higher income families have grown by 40% in 30 years. So how much has that achievement gap, that is, been growing locally?
It continues to grow, and you can see it, at local levels with test scores each and every year. And then we have more and more schools that are interested in bringing wings to their school. So it's increasing, unfortunately, rather than decreasing.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're right. So how many more schools want to have wings in their school?
I would think that there's a large percentage of schools that want wings, and we're going to try and work to get our resources together to figure out a way to get to more and more. It's like any nonprofit. Resources are always the biggest biggest challenge.
What resources do you all need right now to implement that and make that a reality?
I mean, quite honestly, the first thing is always financial. I mean, we need money to run programs, and that's just kind of the way it is. We also do use volunteers, and then willing schools and districts to partner with.
Wow. And what districts want to partner with you all right now?
Well, we partner with Charleston County and Berkeley within the Tri-County area.
And what other districts do you want to partner with in the next 5 years?
We would prefer to be across the state, in as many districts as possible. We do have programs in Atlanta, Georgia as well.
Wow, that's amazing. And what other programs do you want to implement in these schools in the next couple of years?
So we have our traditional after-school program, which is our 5 days a week, 3 hours a day, not 15 hours a day, where we run and operate, but we also are looking for other opportunities. We have an enrichment program where we come into other after-school programs, and we actually partner with Meeting Street Academy for that, where we bring in, an hour of wings teaching into their after-school program. And then finally, we have partnerships where we can come into the school day. So bringing what we teach into the school day, and that's a really important piece that we've been working on for years.
Wow. And what else do you want to work on as a whole, as far as Wings for Kids?
I think that scaling plan is important for us. I mean,
Okay.
to be across the state in a meaningful way has always been something that's important to us.
Wow. And going back again to the future, how do you hope to social emotional learning will be recognized, valued, and obviously supported in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, there has been a little bit of a decrease in support for social and emotional learning over the past year. For the first time, probably in my 25 years, we started out a little bit of as an unknown, so people didn't really recognize what it was. And then once there was evaluation and research behind social emotional learning, people really understood it. And then when the pandemic hit, that was something that people, understood even more because you could see it in kids.
Right.
But over the past year, there's been some negative thoughts around it, but I think that's because people aren't necessarily informed on what it is. There's been a lot of definitions that don't match up with what it is we do.
Right.
So I think what I would like for social emotional learning is for everyone to become educated on what it is so that then we can really move forward in a positive direction rather than potentially focusing on definitions that aren't what we do.
And what exactly is your definition of social emotional learning?
I mean, if you take it the easiest way, you say we're teaching kids how to do things like behave well, manage their emotions, build healthy relationships, step into the shoes of others, have empathy, create supportive and trusting relationships. So I do say it's the heart smarts. It's all the stuff that comes along with having emotions and that other side. And so that's what I think it is.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, Bridget Laird, CEO of Wings for Kids, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome.